Chapter 9. Friday noon. The animals knew the way to Nan's home as well as Doreen did. And apparently, they were eager to head in that direction too, especially Goliath and Muggs. Doreen was hard-pressed to catch up, but so was Thaddeus. Finally, he flew ahead of the others, only to almost get overrun. She chuckled and bent down, offering him the back of her hand. He hopped on without hesitation. "I know you want to walk with us, big guy," she said, "but sometimes it's just easier if you go with the flow." He crooned against her head gently, almost dumping himself sideways so he was lying down. She smiled and cuddled him. "We'll go see Nan, Thaddeus." "Thaddeus loves Nan," he said on a croon. "Thaddeus loves Nan." Doreen laughed in delight. "I've never heard you say that before. I sure wish I could tape you when you talk like that." Then she urged him, "You want to say it again?" But of course, Thaddeus gave no answer. As they came around the corner, Muggs and Goliath ran across the stepping stones to greet Nan, who was waiting for them. Doreen smiled as Nan crouched to cuddle both animals. By the time she arrived at Nan's side, Nan was laughing and sitting on the flower box as she tried to give each equal attention. "It doesn't work, you know," Doreen said with a chuckle. "No matter how much you give them, they'll want more. And as soon as you try to be fair, they'll immediately feel like it isn't fair. You just can't win." "Maybe not," Nan said with a lovely smile. "But it's a wonderful way to lose." She gave each of them a kiss on top of the head and straightened up. She then gave Doreen a big hug and reached up to spend a moment with Thaddeus. That wasn't enough for Thaddeus either. He walked across onto Nan's hand and then up her arm to sit at her shoulder, where he tucked up against the crook of her neck. Nan spent a moment with her eyes closed, holding him against her. "I can't forget all you," she said. "I don't think I can ever get enough of these guys." "I'm sorry you can't have any of them here," Doreen said. "It's one of those nasty little regulatory rules," Nan said. "And sometimes I'm fine with that, but then I just miss them so much." She opened her eyes. "But that's enough about this. Lunch is ready." Doreen gasped when she looked where Nan pointed behind her. "Wow, this looks lovely." There were thick slabs of some chewy bread with a plate full of meat, pickles, cheeses, tomatoes, and vegetables like cucumbers, off to the side. "This is a great spread, Nan. And I didn't want to sit here and eat it alone. Let's eat and have a cup of tea afterward." So that was what they did. After her first slice of bread, Doreen marveled at how simple yet fulfilling a meal like this could taste. When she mentioned it to Nan, her grandmother said, "I was afraid you wouldn't really want to come for such simple fare." "Different bread, different meat, different cheeses," Doreen said with a chuckle. "I've never had all of it at once. And I'm very short on pickles too." She picked one up, took a bite, and shook her head at the unusual explosion of flavor. "What are these?" "Gherkins," Nan said. "Didn't your husband like pickles?" Doreen shook her head. "No pickles. He wasn't into vinegar. We did have olives though. We always had multiple kinds of olives." "That's fine and dandy," Nan said with a sniff, "but pickles are cheaper." "I haven't bought any olives since I left," Doreen said. "But if these are cheaper, I'll consider getting some." "Did you find anything interesting when you went through the kitchen?" "All kinds of things called interesting," Doreen said with a smile. "I didn't know what half of those pans and cooking dishes were. And right at the moment, everything is stacked up in the living room." "That must be a huge pile." "Well," Doreen said, "let me rephrase that. Everything from the kitchen and the hall closet is in the living room, while everything else from the house is out in the garage. I'm not sure how long it'll take to sort through those piles. I'll do the kitchen and hall closet first though, and then maybe this weekend I'll tackle that pile in the garage." Nan brightened up. "Oh, before I forget," she said, "have you found your next case from Solomon's files?" "Not necessarily," Doreen said slowly, not wanting to even speculate if Steve's gun was a case she could work on. But you never know. Exactly, Nan said. I figured there would be all kinds of things that could get you into a lot of trouble. Yeah, and you think there's just one file, Doreen said. You're not allowed to share all this, but I have 4 boxes full of files. Nan clapped her hands in delight. Solomon and I had talked about it earlier, but I didn't know it was so much. There's a lot of information, so it'll take me a long time to go through them. But you'll take the time, Nan said. I know you'll do them justice. Doesn't mean there's anything to find though, Doreen said. She picked up a piece of cheese and took a bite, then closed her eyes. This is a lovely Gruyere. I remembered you loved it, Nan said complacently. And sure, it's expensive, but it's worth getting. At that, Doreen reached for a second piece, waggling her eyebrows at Nan. They enjoyed lunch, and by the time they were done, not much food was left except for a piece of ham for Muggs and a piece of cheese for Goliath, who tossed it around on the floor like it was a mouse. Meanwhile, Thaddeus helped himself to a slice of tomato. Then, with the table cleaned off, they put on the tea kettle. As Doreen sat, Nan came back out with a plateful of something luscious-looking, topped with chocolate and filled with cream. Doreen smiled. You know what, she said. I thought I was full, but I guess I'm not quite that full. These were freshly made this morning. Let's enjoy them. Exactly. By the time they were done, Doreen was thoroughly full and completely satisfied and content. Now, she said, if I could just go home, sit by the creek and read a book. Do it, Nan urged. There's nothing else in your life right now. You don't have to work like a slave all day again. No, Doreen said with a sigh. I want to get the house done before I dive into Solomon's files. So much information is there, but if I stop what I'm doing, I'll never get the spring cleaning done. And I'm determined to finish the sorting and that cleaning. Nan shook her head. You are very focused, my dear. I hear you found somebody's gun too. Yes, a few houses up from my place. Nan nodded. Then, a crafty gleam in her eyes, she asked, whose was it? No clue, but I might know who threw it there. At that, Nan pulled out her pen and a pad of paper, picked up her eyeglasses sitting off to the side, then wrote down a few notes. Details, she told Doreen. I need details, my dear. Doreen told her what she knew, which wasn't much. Nan's lips went into an O shape, and she sat back. Now I know why you want to go home and get into Steve's file, she said. I thought this all had to do with Penny. I scanned in all of Penny's file and sent it to Mac already. He'll see that whoever needs it gets it. Did you read it? I did, Doreen said. But it's not a nice read. It was very sad. She sighed. Penny had a terrible childhood, and I think a sympathetic jury will let her off with just a light sentence. But she attacked you, Nan said in outrage. And she shot Hornby. True, Doreen said. And she'll probably end up serving time for both of those actions, but I don't think it'll be that much. On top of that, most of the jury will be very compassionate about what she did for her brother. Nan nodded slowly. That's a tough one. I can't help but think she should have gone to the police about her brother instead, though. She should have helped him out of that house and called somebody because she was the older sister. She should have done something more. Nan's finger came out and wagged at her. Doreen agreed. I know I shouldn't be so judgmental. I understand she was just as terrified as everybody else, but a part of me wonders if she didn't do it just to make sure her father got caught. At that, Nan frowned. I never even thought of that. The way your mind works, dear. Doreen shrugged as she sipped from her teacup. I'm not even sure it works well. It just vomits out ideas. Oh, Nan said with a laugh. I do love talking with you. Such fun.